Today at Blade Ops, we're going to show a little tutorial on how to change out your spring on your Boker Kalashnikov. First things first, you're going to need a Torx bit size T6 as well as a size T8. That's pretty much your generic sizes for most of the knives out there. And if you're not able to find one at your hardware store, both Benchmade has one in their maintenance kit, as well as Kershaw having it in their more affordable TX tool. So first things first, so you take your T8 on the main pivot screw here. Get that all the way out. And then depending if you have a spring in here that already works or is broken, you want to make sure it's out in the open position. And then we're going to take our T6 and loosen the handle scales. And I find the best way is to loosen just the front ones. So we're going to go down, make sure they're all the way out. And then we're going to take the knife, kind of pinch it up here, and then we're going to use our fingers to kind of separate that front scale until it pops off. So our screws are still in there. So I'm just going to set that up down there. And we have our button. As well as our button spring. Then we're just going to take the blade off, set it right there. Then we've got our pivot pin. We want to make sure we got that over here as well. And then our pivot itself. So first things first, you want to make sure you have 5 pieces here, so you're not losing any. And then we've got our back plate. Barrel spacers are still in there, as well as the screws and the clip. So we're going to take this new spring, drop it in the hole, make sure it lines up, because it does have kind of little lips on there. And then you've got like a little groove right there that it sits down in. And we're going to take our pivot, and it does have a flat side on it, so we want to make sure it lines up. The flat side on here is at the bottom. So we're going to just put that in there. And I like to hold it kind of part of the way out, where it's kind of flush with the spring. Makes it a bit easier to get the blade back on. I'm going to take the washer out of the way, if it's easier for you. And then what we want to do is put that little lip, line it up with the hole there. So make sure it's lined up there and lined up with the main pivot, and kind of push it through so it sticks out. Then, because we got spring, it's going to build some tension as you move it up this way, because our next goal is we're going to get that the stop pin in there. So while pinching the knife, kind of push it, pull it up there. I'll hold it with my thumb. I'm going to take the pivot, or excuse me, the stop pin, put it in that little hole right there. It holds it in place. And this is the tricky part. We're going to take the spring, or the button spring. We're going to put it, set it right in there, make sure it's facing up. Then we're going to take the button and place it on there. And what I like to do, I find the easiest way, is I'll take my thumb and kind of hold it on there with my fingernail so it's nice and lined up. Then we're going to take our washer, put that back on there, and then we're going to take our front scale. We want to make sure to get that lined up on there. So the most important is to get that button lined up and that it's still in place. Make sure that pops through, and then we can kind of turn it to where it'll line up with that. And we want to make sure we line it up with the barrel spacers as well. So I kind of set it up straight, and then you kind of squeeze the handle, and sometimes you'll hear a little click, pretty much stating that everything's lined up. And we'll take our pivot, put that in there. And a little trick that I found out is if you kind of keep pushing the button as you're tightening this, it'll keep it nice and lined up. So make sure the button's still working, because as long as that's still working, 9 times out of 10 you're going to be perfectly lined up every time. Then we're going to go down, tighten up our handle screws. And then you can kind of play around with how hard that you want the spring to kick. See, like that? I over-torqued it just a little too much. So loosen it just barely. And there we have it. You play with how much blade play you want and how much kick you want. There's a tutorial on how to change out your spring.